these two are freaking solid. These are very solid frame locks. These pocket clips are not excellent for one reason. Well, what's going on, blade lovers? We have a head-to-head video for you today of a knife company I have yet to test and review here on the channel. So this is the very first video on a case knife, even though they've been making knives here in America forever. And we're looking at two similar family, but very different designs, very different attributes in the case Marilla and the case Kinzua, I believe is how I'm pronouncing that. Kinzua in drop point. They do have this model down here in a Tanto version as well. This is the drop point version. And so we're gonna do head to head. Though they look similar, they are different. I connect with one a lot more than the other. There's some awesome attributes, really cool modernization of case knives. And then there are some things that definitely need to be, updated, tweaked, I think, to really take these to the next level. Now, the Marilla did win Blade Show's 2021 American Knife of the Year. So that is saying something. Of all the knives made in America that were at Blade Show in 2021, this blade won it and got the award. So that's pretty cool. And for many reasons, I can see why. For a few, I'm like, okay, not sure why. So let's go ahead and dive in. American made for both, S35VN for both, so great materials, glad they're made in America, and they're both gonna hit really good price points as well for the materials. The Marilla up here usually goes for about $135. You can get it for up to $150. And then the lower one, the Kinzua, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, you can get for as cheap as like $115 and you will go to like $125. So really cool that you can get American-made S35VN blades that are good size. These are 3.4-inch blades, and you can pick these up for easily just over $100, not much more, and you can get that. So that's very good that Case is doing that and providing us these materials at that price point. I will have affiliate links to all the distributors that I regularly partner with below so that you guys can kind of check out and determine for yourself throughout this video if one of these two designs makes sense for you. Do appreciate when you use those hyperlinks. We'll look at the Marilla first, which I definitely connect with more just visually. It just looks so cool. I mean, this looks like a swordfish, maybe a barracuda, I don't know. Very, very lethal in its presentation of that stonewash blade. All the blades currently are not coated. I believe they're all stonewash. We do have, I would say 2/3 saber grind on this one with that really good aesthetic swedge right there in that real nice tip. 0.15, so pretty thick. Not quite 5/32, but just about on the back spine there. Very light hit of jimping. I love, like you can barely even see it from the side, but there you feel it, but it's not aggressive, and it just gives it a cool aesthetic look there. So I thought, when I looked at that, I was like, look how thick that blade is. I'm like, oh my gosh, like is this thing even gonna slice? The edge geometry is good on this one, and absolutely did every EDC task that I would expect the tool to do. This one is going to have the exact same thickness and has a similar grind. The Tanto, there is again the Tanto version. This one a little bit less so. I don't know if it's just like lower grind because the blade is somewhat shorter from edge to spine. This one is not a super slicer. It did okay, but there are definitely much slicier blades out there. It's just because of how thick they went with. So if they had done just basically a full flat or a very high grind and maybe brought it down to an 1/8, maybe like 0.13, 0.14 even, would have made both very, very slicey. The Marilla is the more slicey of the two and definitely did good for a thicker blade and will compete with a lot of other, I would say blades in this kind of thickness realm that have saber grinds. So yes, of course, a full flat grind with an 1/8 of an inch thick, something like this or something, of course is going to be more slicey. It's just the way it is. But this did perform well for the style of blade that it is, more than I thought it would. This one a little bit less so. Now at 3.4, good reach there on the blade lengths. And then S35VN, excellent steel. I love that steel, having a lot of blades now, becoming very prominent. And oftentimes you have to pay $200, to get that type of steel in your hand. And for the prices that I just mention that's very impressive. Again, very good fit and finish, dead center on both. You can just see here how much more precise and starting way back here, the tip is going down, giving you good piercing and just better slicing, whereas this one is basically that 0.15 all the way down to the very end of the tip. So great for strength and stabbing, and probably the Tanto, if you like Tantos and you like everything else about the Kinzua, that would probably be the better option. And so that thickness doesn't help necessarily with the cutting task, giving it excellent strength, but not slicing capability. Now the action is real nice on both. You have these big flippers that run on bearings, so they're running on ball bearings. Very smooth, very easy to purchase, both of them. Boom, no wrist flick, flies right open. Very cool. Overcome the detent. The Kinzua seems to have a little bit stronger detent, and you seem to have to overcome the detent ball more so than on the Marilla. The Marilla, I think it's like closer to the blade. It was what it looks like. So it's very easy to overcome and then swing down. And it still has a good detent, very, very good detent. I mean, it's not gonna fall out, but the Kinzua, it's further away and you really have to overcome it, and you have to kind of really work the blade to get it over that detent ball on that particular model. Both fly open, both really nice in that regard. They have very deep stop bars back there that are good diameter, but they're really buried in there, and that's not a negative. That's a great thing. They're really buried in there, so it stops really solid. These are very solid frame locks, very solid. There is zero play. A lot of ball bearing, style blades, there's a little bit of rock. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. These two are freaking solid. So that lends themselves into these aluminum handles, and that's where you're able to kind of do some of the cost cutting. I don't have no issues with aluminum. A lot of companies would be doing titanium. To me, it just kind of like lightens it, makes it feel cooler. Ooh, I got titanium. Aluminum is totally fine, and if I can get my hands on a knife for 130 to 115 versus 185 or 200, and the only difference would be a titanium handle, I'll take aluminum all day. So aluminum, anodized aluminum, lots of different color combinations that are available, big, huge frame locks. They do have their stainless steel stop over travels on both, and engagement points to the back spine. Sorry, 3.6, 3.4. So well under the 4 ounces for 3.4 inch handles or blades. Very good. The handles are very large. They'll fit my large size hands very nicely. Plenty of real estate left over there. Real good on both, nice and large, long. Now the differences are going to be in a couple ways. One, the Marilla, you got this traction part G10 that they screwed in, just give you a little tactile feel. It's cool. It's different. It doesn't blow my mind. I'm not like, oh my gosh, but I'm not like, oh, it's dumb. It's just a unique feature to the design. Gives you a little bit of texture to grab when you're going into your pocket to pull it out. So that's cool. The Kinzua will not. It's just aluminum all the way around. Anodized aluminum there, all the way around. Good milling on all the edges. There's no, like crazy sharp edges. They've milled those and rounded them very nicely on both. Good cut in here on the Marilla with the finger flipper. Really works well. I got a deep grab right there, fills out my finger very nicely. I feel very in control. I can use it in a reverse grip. It's nice and what I would want. The Kinzua, not as much, because the cut in right there is much smaller. You can see that there? It's quite a bit smaller than what we have on the Marilla, and barely fits my index finger. My index finger is really almost trapped in there. It just doesn't feel as organic as on the Marilla. So if they just literally copied that cut in, that would have been perfect. It's a little too narrow for my large size hands, and I noticed it. Every time I gripped it, it kind of wanted to float because it's being kind of trapped and caught in there in this very narrow, tight space. The rest of it is totally fine. If you have small to medium hands, you probably won't notice it. If you have large to extra large, the Marilla is definitely a better ergonomic cutout and just more natural. Now these are ambidextrous, which is good. A lot of frame locks are not. These pocket clips are not excellent for one reason. The screws, Look at how huge and monstrous those are. Those are freaking Mount Kilimanjaro in there on both of these. And particularly, the distance isn't bad back here with the rear screw. The front screw, the distance between the top of the screw and where the loop over is so small, it bogs down and catches every single pair, every single pair of pants that I have catches right there, and then it either just wants to rest there, sticking that much up above, or I have to physically push it or lift the pocket clip up to then bury it in. So those screws, I'm just gonna give you a couple examples here. Here's a Chinese CJRB I'm messing around with, $40 knife, made in China. They know what they're doing with those loop overs. Those are recessed screws, huge, real estate in there, easily goes on every pair of pants I own. Not the case with these. So these either need to have recessed screws or do something like this. Just not even worry about the loop over and pronounce the pocket clip, kind of old school. So many people are doing loop overs and that's great, but in turn, it actually bogs down the pocket clip. So it doesn't ruin the carryability of the knife, but it's something that I'm constantly messing with. And I really hope that Case either starts offering, for those of us who already have these, recessed screws that we could just screw on, or redesigns the pocket clip altogether. I think would be ideal and really take the carryability to the next level. It's still functional. I still carry this. I've carried this a lot. The Marilla particularly, I carried it a bunch and it was a lot of fun. And I got used to just having to either just push hard to get it into my pocket, or as I'm putting it in, I just pull the pocket clip up a little bit and then bury it in. But if there was an option for recessed screws, I would buy those in a heartbeat. Or if there was some either aftermarket or redesign of the pocket clip, I would totally go that direction and it would just take it to the next level of carryability. So there you go. Case did send these over to me so that I could test them out, give you guys pros, cons, help you determine for yourselves which of the two models might make sense for you. All the excellent attributes, but some drawbacks as well, to just highlight those. I think overall, I love the direction Case is going in. I love the price point that they're hitting for the materials. With some very minor tweaking, this would be not a good blade, but a freaking excellent blade. I think the Marilla is a very good blade. The Kinzua, a little bit less so, unless you probably went with the Tanto version. That I think would make the most sense if you're going with that. But I love the direction Case is going in, and I look forward to hearing from you guys as well. What are your thoughts with these two blades? The direction Case is going with some of this modernization. I can't wait to see more modernization blades from them coming down the line. I invite you to subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. Smash that like button. Watch the other video popping up. And until next time, guys, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.